Hey there, I thought it would be a cool idea for today's video to actually share with you a short list of my personal biggest influences in the fitness industry. So this is a list of coaches and training methods and companies and websites that have found their way into my work. So when I look at my bookshelf, when I look at the programs that I write, the works and the ideas from these folks permeate all of it. And I really only had like one original fitness idea in my entire life. Everything else I have stolen, hybridized, or otherwise bastardized from one or more of these sources. And this is going to be somewhat of a sharing of my story, a sharing of my journey along the way. It's a snapshot of where I am personally and professionally here in the summer of 2019. So as it stands right now, I've been a full-time trainer for 7 years, and I really got into fitness about 2 years before that. So I hope to make an update to this video in another 7 or 8 years, and hopefully the list will be 2 or 3 times as long. But here's how it goes as it stands. Number one, I have to give props to my dad. My father bought me my first weight set, I would assume when I was about 12 or maybe 13 years old. As I was getting into wrestling. I wrestled for a couple of years. I was okay, but if it wasn't for my dad buying me the weight set that still resides in my childhood bedroom, who knows? May not be here today recording this video. So first props to my dad. And you know, for me, fitness really wasn't a thing for a number of years, really until my very early 20s, when I got into P90X. And that was when fitness, the habit of fitness, really began to take hold in my life. So Tony Horton taught me the value of entertaining along with educating, along with training. He does not get the respect that he deserves, especially in and amongst our serious strength and conditioning crowd, but he was a major influence. Moving on from there, you know, I actually did CrossFit in my front yard for a little bit, you know. Nothing, usually not as prescribed, because all I had was, you know, a barbell that I really just kind of used for deadlifting and then occasionally for some overhead pressing. But the main thing that CrossFit taught me was the value of giving, or the value of exposing people to new modalities, to new methods of training. So that's what I got from CrossFit. You know, from there, I really became a health and fitness nerd by spending untold hours on 2 specific websites, marksdailyapple.com and dragondoor.com. The former was a big paleo nutrition and workout blog, and of course the latter introduced me to kettlebells. It was dragondoor.com. And it was there that I was exposed to the work of Pavel, and that I became versed in hardstyle training methodologies. And that led me to seek out my first real coach, my first instructor. So I actually got on the Dragon Door instructor listings and found Gray Cook, who at the time I didn't know from Adam. But I shot him a cold email and I said, hey, can you train me in kettlebells? He said, absolutely not. Of course, he's way too busy and way too expensive for my situation. But he hooked me up with his protege, Brad. And Brad was my first kettlebell instructor who taught me a lot. He was a fantastic coach. He got me ready for the one-day HKC course and later the RKC certification. And through Brad and his encouragement, obviously I got super nerded out on kettlebells and obviously was exposed very much to the work of Pavel Tsatsouline. And the biggest thing that I got from Pavel is that strength is a skill, which means that training is a practice, which means that just getting sweaty and sore maybe doesn't always need to be the #1 priority in your exercise regimen. Imagine that. From the RKC on, I was exposed to 2 coaches that really made each a tremendous impact on the way that I viewed coaching and the whole game of fitness. Those 2 names are Dan John and Max Schenk. And Max was actually my RKC team leader, and he taught me, much like CrossFit, the value of bringing different modalities and training methods together under one umbrella. Again, with a little bit of the strength as a skill ingredient thrown in there, in the sense that, like, you know, you didn't have to kill yourself in order to get super duper crazy, amazing, strong, and athletic. He also kind of pioneered the 5-minute flow concept. So like that habit formation of just doing a little bit early and often in your day can be a big game changer. So he helped bridge some of those ideas for me big time. And then Dan John, now there's so many gems from that guy, but the biggest one that I've taken away and that I try to communicate to my students is respecting the difference between the bus bench training mentality and the park bench training mentality. And that might be the subject of a whole another video, but that was a big one for me. And it's been a big thing that I've kept in mind when I program for my clients, is communicating the value of each of those. So moving on from there, as I really got into my career in a big box gym, training at a big box corporate gym, I got really into barbell training. I got really into powerlifting, and that's where a couple more interesting characters found their way into my life. One being Elliott Hulse, who has one of the biggest fitness YouTube channels around, and he exposed me to a lot. The body is the mind being one of the most powerful concepts that I took from Elliott. So lots of interesting stuff from him. I also got into Starting Strength. I think that the Starting Strength book is required reading for anybody who's serious about strength training, and regardless of how the community has evolved since the publication of that book the first time around, you can't argue with a lot of the advice, technique and programming advice that came out of that core Starting Strength material. In addition, Juggernaut Training Systems, Chad Wesley Smith, has been a huge influence for me in the powerlifting space and in general strength programming. I think he's fantastic. He really helps to both simplify the strength training science, but also really respects a lot of the nuances that a lot of people can overlook. One of the biggest takeaways for me is just really respecting hypertrophy training. So long blocks of muscle building and work capacity for the powerlifting athlete. So it's not just about maxing out all the time. Oh, who else? Quinn Hennock with Clinical Athlete. So Quinn Hennock kind of came out of the Juggernaut training system community. He's a physical therapist, and when it comes to like a no-nonsense approach to technique and mobility and corrective exercise, I think he's fantastic. I got a lot from him. He's principally the reason why I start most training sessions with 90-90 breathing. All right, breathing is important. That's a big one that I got from Quinn. I must not overlook Tim Anderson of Original Strength. Another very powerful movement, mobility system. And biggest thing that I got from them is, well, much like Quinn, the power of breathing, specifically nose breathing, but also crossing the midline. So really understanding how to train the body in the way that it's kind of meant to move in this kind of cross-body pattern. So that's Tim Anderson and Original Strength. Very, very good stuff. Stuff that I incorporate pretty much every day in my training. Cannot overlook the work of Greg Nuckols when it comes to the barbell stuff. He's a super smart guy. I believe his blog is now entitled Stronger by Science, if I'm not mistaken. And he's got a lot of cool stuff. My personal favorite is, a thing of his to share is his article on the bench press bar path, which can be a little controversial, but check that out if you want to get super nerdy on the barbell bench press bar path. In the interest of not making this video go any longer than it has to, let's wrap up with a couple of the other big ones. David Delanave, the biofeedback approach. Basically a actual method for tuning into your body, for listening to your body for what it needs. That's a big rabbit hole. But David's work, Frankie Ferry's work around biofeedback testing and training has been another big game changer for me and some of my clients. Precision Nutrition, Dr. John Berardi. I'm a big fan of the Precision Nutrition course, and the biggest takeaway there is, I mean, not only getting into all the nutritional science and the biology, which is all super cool, but what it really comes down to is habit formation, really taking a look at and respecting the fact that it is our day-to-day habits that shape our lives, and nowhere is that more apparent than in nutrition. And from a coaching standpoint, it's about listening. 2 ears, 1 mouth, that whole thing. So it's really pretty simple, and that's something that I don't always respect, probably as much as I could and should, but the training approach, the coaching approach that Precision Nutrition exposed me to is absolutely amazing, absolutely amazing, and came to me at an early point in my career, and I couldn't have been more appreciative and more grateful for that course material. Functional range conditioning and the work of Dr. Andrea Spina. Biggest thing here is really respecting the difference between mobility and flexibility, right? Basically being able to control end ranges of motion as opposed to being able to passively stretch your joints into a particular range of motion. So that's kind of a big unlock that, like, I kind of always knew, but that system really gave me a big unlock to start getting really creative and to start doing a lot of new fun things in my strength practice. So FRC, that was a big one. And finally, the work of the fine guys at the Online Movement University, John, and DJ. I've been exposed to lots of great information from those guys. I've been a part of their training group for just over a year now, and you know, they have curated material from lots of other coaches, and so I've really gotten to practice a lot of cool new things that some I have been exposed to but never really got my hands dirty with. Everything from hand balancing to you know, more of the mobility techniques, to shadow lifting, torque chain oriented training, and so much other cool stuff. But, well, it seems my camera died as I was wrapping up that video, so here I am the next morning, not exactly camera ready, a little disheveled, but I just want to say thank you so much for watching. And you know, the whole idea here is that I have no secrets in my training, and you know, really none of us do. We're all standing on the shoulders of giants and iterating on other people's work. And if you have any questions or would like any sort of elaboration on any of the sources that I mentioned, just feel free to drop a comment and let me know. I'd be happy to expand upon any of this stuff. And with that, I wish you all the best in your training, and we will see you in the next video.